This video is intended to teach students how to locate and place components in Multisim 12. In Multisim 12, like all previous versions that may be available, most parts are found in the Place menu. So if you go to Place and click, the very first option is Component. The Component menu, if you click on it, will allow you to pull up a sort of submenu. This floating window you can obviously move around, and you can find all kinds of parts. The database we'll be using for digital electronics this year is the master database. If for any reason this database gets changed, simply click on it and make sure you select master database. Once you've done that, you then have the option for groups. There are many ways that parts are sorted, so one of the easiest ways to learn how to find things that are related to the parts you're looking for is to simply leave this as all groups. As you can see from this drop-down menu, there are several items such as sources, basic, diodes, transistors, and so on. We use quite a few parts from many categories, so I find that there's an easier way to look up parts. So I select all groups. Once all groups is selected, I select all families. This allows me to see the entire list of parts in the Multisim program. The Multisim program has several different components with similar names. So what I'd like to do is to look for a part. One of the major components we'll use in this course is going to be a switch. Those switches are known as SPDT, or single pole double throw switches. So what I can do to look them up, I can simply type in SPDT, and it gives me a few options. Now, there are three options listed here. The first option is the interactive switch. That's the one you want to start with. The other two options are editable, but only for schematics. These are not things that are functional for what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to stick with the first one, and I'm going to hit OK. Once I place this component that is now floating around the screen, the window pops back up. So it allows me to place multiple items. So if I need multiple switches, then I make sure that I continue to hit OK until I have the right number. When I'm done with this particular item, I'd like to look for something else. More often than not, one of the parts I will look for is something known as VCC. It's my voltage at a common connector. So VCC, if I simply type that in, is one of the other connectors we use. There is only one option. Please notice on the left, I'm still in all groups and all families. If at any time while you're finding parts these are changed or you're having trouble finding a part when you know what it looks like, it's a really good idea to make sure you check that all groups and all families are selected. So we have VCC. I'm going to hit OK. All right, so that's now been placed on my workspace, and there it is. All right, now, once I have VCC, I'm going to need a ground. There are two types of ground we're going to use in this class. One is an analog ground. The analog ground looks like this, where you type in the word ground, where it looks like an upside-down pyramid, almost. And then the other one is simply a digital ground, DGND, and that one is a closed shape. These are typically used for our logic circuits, things dealing with ones and zeros. This is the one we're going to stick with most, but I will show some occasion in the future where we're going to use the analog ground as well. So I'm going to click OK and place that on my workspace also. Finally, there are additional parts we're going to be looking up throughout the year, including things as probes. Probes are used as light indicators for circuits. They come in BIG, digital form, or analog form as well. Either one is acceptable for most of the circuits we use, and they come in different colors. You can select any one you like. So there are 4 components on my workspace there. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward when finding parts, but occasionally you're going to need to know some further information. One thing you might need to know, especially when it comes to integrated circuits, mainly IC chips, you're going to need a part number. So typically the part numbers we will be using will relate to the numbers 74 followed by LS, and the L and S can be typed in lowercase, they don't have to be uppercase, followed by a particular number. As you can see, the item in the window has changed into some kind of a funny little symbol. This is what we've been exploring in class. The symbols that you will find relate to the gates that we're going to be talking about throughout the year. They come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. As you can see, there are many forms of each one. So if I want to look for a particular gate, I'll start with a simple AND gate, 08. And it comes in both an IC form, which is the picture of a circuit, as well as the individual gate form. We're going to be using the N type. Notice how it's just an individual gate as opposed to its IC, which is an entire block. So I'm going to take one of those gates and I'm going to place it on my workspace. Please note that when gates pop up, we have a little option for one of the gates on that list. I'll simply click A and I will place it. If I'm done, I will then close out my window. So I'm going to close this out and take a look at the parts that I have. These parts here can easily be moved now that they've been placed on the workspace. I hope you've had an instructional moment enjoying my switches and placement of VCC ground, probes, and logic gates in terms of this instructional video. Any questions or concerns, please come to me in class. Please note there is a shortcut for getting into the place menu. Control and W will get you there very quickly, which is very convenient for those of you that like shortcuts.